Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's talk show episode. We have an amazing guest here today, Miss Insiya, who is going to be sharing with us how to balance health and vitality with Ayurveda. My name's Christine Fraser. I will be your host today, and I'm the founder of Inner Glow Getter, where we help women to transform their health from the inside out so that they can have more energy and vitality and really live their best life. So, I wanted to share before we get started. I just wanted to share that in today's episode and all of our episodes that we want to note that none of the information shared is meant to be anything towards medical diagnosis or treatment. So please make sure that you see a medical professional if you're going through any sort of illness. But this information is meant for general health and well-being, and we found many people who have had incredible health transformations through some of the information that we share. So I hope you feel inspired and excited. And for those of you attending live in the chat, you're welcome to, you can do little clapping. You are part of a live studio audience. We want you to be interactive as well. So you can also share any questions. You can talk to Insiya personally. So make sure you come up with a question. You can enter it in the chat. You can remain anonymous if you'd like. But if you're going through anything that you'd like some direct contact with Insiya, this is your time to get that incredible wisdom from this beautiful soul. And one thing that I have to say is that one of the things that we talk about in living your healthiest self, your body is this beautiful vessel, you start to connect with people, circumstances, and synchronicities in your life. And Insiya and I have no doubt many of our own synchronicities in this life where we have met. Insiya has been also a guest at one of my cooking workshops in Bali, but we both live here on the island in Victoria as well. And we have, no joke, ran into each other physically on many occasions in different parts of the world. So if we're not meant to be friends, I don't know who is.
Yeah.
And that's very much the case with so many people in my own world. And that's something that we always like to share, because life is meant to be this magical unfolding when you truly connect to your health, this inner wisdom, all of these beautiful things. And so Insiya is also, she's not only an Ayurvedic practitioner, health coach, but she grew up in Bombay, India with yoga and Ayurveda, shaping her life. She is a yogi, a yogini, I like that phrase. She is a mother, she's a writer, she's passionate about sharing some transformative materials with people to help inspire people, find more balance. And today's topic is about vitality and how to go through these phases of your day, which I'm so excited to hear more. But she's been featured in the Yoga Journal, Peppermint Magazine. She's contributed to Travel Wellness in the Globe and Mail. The list goes on. You can check out more of her information. We're going to be sending you to her website. She also has a mini course on Ayurveda. So don't worry, we have lots of support material for you. But welcome, Insiya. Hi.
Hi. Oh my goodness. What an introduction.
It's funny to hear back all the things you've accomplished, hey?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I've done all those things. I've done all those things. So yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful and humbling at the same time, because I feel really privileged to have done all of the things that I've done, and I feel really happy to be here for so many reasons, because I absolutely love what you do. I love that you connect women to really reconnecting with ourselves, which is a hard task to do.
It is,
as
isn't
women.
It? Yeah.
At this particular point in the global culture and in our history. And I think you really articulate that so beautifully for people. And I've witnessed your work, and yes, you talked about synchronicity. We have so much of that. And actually that brings me to the conversation today, because what we're going to be talking about is something that has been part of my life for a very long time, in ways that were both unconscious, and then when I formally began to study it, they became it became this conscious, learned, embodied practice. And I say that right at the get-go, because what I hope that our audience can take away from today's conversation is that Ayurveda, even though it comes from India and it comes from, this land that I grew up in, and yes, I was steeped in it at a very young age, and I'll talk about that. What I really find in it is its universality. And
Mm,
the fact that when you kind of tune into this filter from which you start to see the world, which I think Ayurveda really offers, you start to realize that you have all of this information
mm,
inside of you.
mm,
It is your innate wisdom, and all you're doing is you're kind of like connecting the dots, and then you start to see it in this pattern, and then you can start to apply it in your life. So it's in you. So nothing that I'm going to say or share today is outside of your sphere of well-being.
mm, Very aligned with the inner glow.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Very aligned. We're very
Another,
aligned. So this is a
yeah.
perfect segue because can you explain to our audience like what is Ayurveda? Like what is the definition of Ayurveda?
Okay. So I love that you said Ayurveda because that's so Canadian. And I love
Oh my
how we
gosh,
say
sorry.
A's.
Yeah.
I love how we say A's in Canada.
Yes, yes.
So Ayurveda. So you can say it, you can even repeat the word with me, Ayurveda.
Ayurveda.
So Ayurveda is basically
Ayurveda.
yeah, it's the word Ayurveda comes from Sanskrit, and Ayur simply means life or longevity, and
Mm,
Veda is philosophy or science. So
beautiful.
Ayurveda simply is the philosophy or science or art of life and longevity.
Beautiful.
And so I mean, when you say that, it encompasses every aspect of our life,
Mhm,
right? From
mhm.
not even from birth to death, but actually from pre-birth, from the time of conception.
Wow.
And it talks about practices that we can connect to. And those practices range from everything from, I'm so sorry, I'm going to try to, quickly do okay, we're just going to ignore that. We're just going to move on.
Mhm.
Um, there, it connects to everything from food, lifestyle, so nutrition, lifestyle habits, to actual medical diagnoses and treatments.
Mhm.
And it basically offers us insight into how to live life in a way that is harmonious and beneficial to the well-being of the organism, which is ourself. So
Beautiful.
that, in a nutshell, is Ayurveda.
Wow, very well spoken. I feel like such a student because I've studied how do you say it? Ayurveda.
Ayurveda,
Ayurveda.
yeah.
18 years ago when I first went on my own journey at the Tree of Life, I went
Hmm.
and studied with Dr. Gabriel Cousins, and it was an immersive experience. And he really follows a lot of those principles. So we studied the doshas and things like that. But it's almost like feels like so long ago. It's like a new beginning for me to relearn. So it's exciting.
Awesome.
So I know you have a beautiful sheet for everybody, and we'll be giving you that sheet at the end of this chat. But we want to, Insia wants to share how to move through, the daily rhythms of life and what to incorporate each day. So do you want me to share your sheet right now that you want to walk us through that?
Not,
Or what would you
not
like to
right.
share first?
Let's just talk about why that's important,
Yeah,
right? So,
please.
and I
Yeah,
think, and
sure.
I think this kind of aligns with what the work that you're doing as well, which is
Hmm.
basically um, understanding and taking on new habits and practices and kind of
Yeah.
making them your own, right? And so, what Ayurveda says is it's really simple. It's like the purpose of living life well. There, it is quite simple. We want to live a life where we can feel that we are in flow and in harmony with, if you will, the river of life, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you want to feel that you're living in a way that you're not paddling upstream against a
Mm.
current,
Hmm.
but that you are actually feeling the pull of something that is kind of guiding you and helping you, right?
Mhm.
And when you hear me say that, I know that you've had instances in your life where you felt that, right?
Absolutely.
And I know I have too. And
Repetitively.
Yeah, and you feel and you
Cyclical.
know how different it feels when you feel like you're pushing against something and everything that you do doesn't really amount to anything because it doesn't feel right. There's something kind of
Absolutely.
off, right? And so we start from that place of going, okay, well, life should be magical. It should be easeful. It should
Mhm.
allow us to have this balance of all of the things that we're kind of looking for, right, in our life,
Absolutely.
whether it's love, relationships, health, work, a purpose, a sense of fulfillment, and all of these
Mhm.
aspects of our life. And it has this beautiful way of taking all of these things and kind of boiling them down into basic principles of understanding how we live our life.
Mhm.
And what we do is we break down kind of everything in the universe into patterns. And you mentioned the doshas before, and the
Mhm.
doshas are kind of very intrinsic to this understanding because if you are somebody who is familiar with Ayurveda, you will have heard of this term called the doshas. And the doshas are basically three bioenergies that symbolize the elements in the universe. And I'll just mention them quickly. You don't have to remember this information, but there
Mhm.
are three. There's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
Mhm.
Vata is the air element, air and space. It's the lightest one. That's what I want you
Mhm.
to remember. And it's the principle of movement. So it
Mhm.
makes everything in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotional bodies move. Okay, so it's responsible for taking something from here and making sure it gets there. So if
Mhm.
you think about like blood flow in our body, it's helping the blood to flow. It's helping our digestion to
Mhm.
work in the
Mhm.
proper way. It's helping us to eliminate waste, for example. Pitta is the fire principle. It's the principle of transformation.
Mhm.
And this energetic principle exists in us in our digestive fire, which is how we actually metabolize and transform the food that we take in. So that is the external inputs and
Mhm.
how we utilize the food that we eat in our endocrine system, in our metabolic system. So our food literally transforms into our hormones and then also eventually impacts our well-being and our state of mind. And I know you talk so much about food and
Mhm.
how to transform, right?
Yeah.
Our organism. And then kapha is the third bioenergy, and that is the principle of stability, and it is related to earth and water elements. So think about the density of being able to be held. A really great way to think about kapha is a really nice hug. That
Mm.
feeling when somebody gives you this beautiful, juicy hug and you kind of melt and you want to stay there, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it is of all the three, it's the heaviest. Pitta, the fiery one, is the hottest. And Vata,
Mhm.
the airy one, is the lightest and it moves the fastest. And these three doshas exist in the larger universe. So they exist in all aspects of life. For example, I would say that today I'm in Victoria, BC,
Mhm.
and it's a very hot day here today. We're going through a bit of a heat wave. I would say
Mhm.
that the pitta energy is quite high
Mhm.
because the external fire element in the universe,
Mhm.
which is the sun, it's the solstice as well, happy solstice, is
Mhm.
very high and strong. So the pitta energy is quite amplified. And Ayurveda tells us that if we want to live life in flow and more in balance, we need to understand how the doshas impact our life.
Mhm.
And when we start to understand how the doshas impact our life, we can start to make appropriate choices so that we can balance the effects of the doshas. So, for example, on this hot, sunny, bright day, I might not choose to go for a run at 1 p.m. because
Mhm.
I that will overheat me more than
Yes.
I need, most
Mhm.
likely. And I might choose to drink a glass of watermelon juice because
Mhm.
watermelons are cooling and they have potassium and they will help to kind of calm and balance my organism. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I
So
love
so we
that.
use these principles all the time in life. And when we talk about a day, and you can pull up that slide right now if you
Sure,
want to.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah, we
absolutely.
can.
I'm
And this is where
excited
it
to
gets
share this.
really, really exciting, because then you can start to kind of see how this works relationally. So, this is a really simple slide. And basically, what it's talking about is the Ayurvedic circadian rhythm, or the Ayurvedic clock.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at the doshas and how they impact us every single day, we start to learn that when we do the right thing at the right time, we can start to live in flow, and we can start to create habits that actually support us towards greater well-being and greater vitality.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, so we talked about the three doshas. So there's kapha, which is that
Mm-hmm.
again, water, earth energy, pitta, and then vata. And
Mm-hmm.
I listed these according to kind of the cycle of the day. So the idea in life, it's very simple. You know, we want to wake up early in the
Yes.
day.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we want to wake up early in the day? Because this is a time that actually supports the body to move and to kind
Mm-hmm.
of remove the sluggishness out of the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, I would say you almost want to wake up like just kind of on that cusp of kapha time. So almost a little right now in the summer, just almost around 6, or even a little before 6 is really nice when there
Mm-hmm.
is so much light and brightness.
Yeah.
And and I and I think you'll feel this if you are somebody who is an early riser normally, and then you have a late night or something happens and you sleep in. And you
Mm-hmm.
notice that if you actually sleep in, say, until about 8 a.m. or something, you'll feel a lot more sluggish, and there will be more inertia in the body, and you will have to work harder at getting up. You'll need that extra cup of coffee, potentially.
Wow. Yes.
Versus if you wake up just around vata and kapha time, at that cusp of
Mm-hmm.
the intersection, because vata time in the morning is like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. If you wake up right towards the end of vata time, your
Mm-hmm.
body will be more primed to be awake, and it will also be primed for you to eliminate waste matter out of the body, which is your digestive system is primed, because that is what the vata dosha is responsible for. So we live in a culture right now where there are so many digestive issues. There's chronic constipation, for example.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons this happens is people don't give themselves enough time in the morning to have a
Mm-hmm.
healthy routine against eliminating the bowels. And so,
Wow.
yeah, so I do have a great handout that I've shared as a giveaway today. And
Yes, and I'm so excited for everybody to watching that there's a handout that really goes through like literally things to do each in the morning and the afternoon. I have a quick question. Just looking at the
yeah,
first thing, the morning, because I work
yeah,
with typically, the busy women, the moms, they're typically working mothers. You know, this when people have, especially mothers, I find, and you are a mother, so
mhm.
how do people manage getting in this morning? I feel like that's a real struggle for a lot of women to get in this morning ritual of any sort, because they're like, I wake up and I got 3-year-olds running around the house at 6 in the morning. So like
Totally.
how do you manage that?
So my son is now 13, so it's
Hmm.
actually interesting because he wants to sleep in a little longer. So
Hmm.
I feel all of a sudden that I have a little bit of extra space in the morning, which has been a game changer for me. But when he was younger, what I would do is really, and it took me a while, but I started to commit to getting myself to bed earlier so that I
Mm,
could just have, you know what, Christine? It wasn't even a half an hour sometimes. It was just 15 minutes to
yes. Okay.
myself.
Beautiful.
And so I do this thing in the morning, and I still do it to date, where I wake up,
Mhm.
I splash cold water in my eyes, clean my tongue, clean my teeth, whatever, go and get my glass of warm water with lemon or lime,
Mhm.
depending on the season. And then I have a journal, and this is kind of my daily practice. And I literally sit down for even 5 minutes and I just
Mhm.
write three things down, and
Yeah.
I sip my lemon water and the 15 minutes are up.
Mhm.
And then I go on to the rest of the morning and getting school, getting him out the door for school and breakfast and all the other chores that moms do every single day and getting ready for
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
So, but that little piece of spaciousness
Yes.
has helped me to set the tone for my entire day of setting an intention, and then drinking the lemon water also helps with digestion and elimination. So it's like literally I don't need that cup of coffee to go to the bathroom, which a lot of people rely on. It's just getting a warm fluid in your system is actually that message to your digestive system to go, okay, it's time to
Mhm.
release whatever
Mhm.
happened yesterday. And I keep kind of talking about this because
Yeah.
this is one of the things we look at in Ayurveda a lot, because in order to live your life well, you need to feel lightness and a
Mhm.
sense of spaciousness so you can start to emotionally and physically as well draw in whatever you need from this new day, because you every single day you wake up, you have a new chance to try again, to start
Yes.
over. And the
Mhm.
more you can do that to prime your body in that way, the more easier it will become. Yeah.
Absolutely. Love that. I love I think a lot of people too that, and if you're a coffee drinker, it's like, I love that you said the lemon water first thing, because that has made such a huge difference for me too. Is just these small little shifts make a huge difference in your
Yes.
mental state, in the fatigue, in the everything. So yeah, I think this is a beautiful framework here.
Yes. And that's exactly it, right? And that is the beauty of Ayurveda. It just offers us these frameworks and these structures, and then
Mhm.
you can kind of find a lot of support within the structure because, and this is something one of my teachers taught me almost 18 years ago. And he said the thing about human beings that is so interesting is, we think that we are, so technologically advanced, and we think that we can do all of these things at this time in our history. But
Mhm.
the thing that hasn't shifted about humans from about 5,000 years ago is that our response to stress in our physiology has not
Mhm.
changed. So
Mhm.
we're no longer running from the proverbial saber-toothed tiger. Now we're running from to-do lists and emails and way too much responsibility and too much time on social media and whatever else we're dealing with in our
Mhm.
life. But we still react to stress in the same way. And what we need in order to combat the chaos of stress, because stress amplifies to some degree the vata dosha. It creates anxiety. It creates it creates a dissonance in us.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what we need to counter the dissonance, and Ayurveda always tells us that opposites balance, which is a very
Mhm.
simple statement, right? It's like when something is
Mhm.
hot, to make it less hot, we use something cool, in that sense. So when there's dissonance and chaos in our world, and our world is very chaotic, it's very
Yes.
fast paced, we need to bring in the opposite. And in this case, in the case of our life, what we need is rhythm and routine
Mhm.
so that we can find a structure to land into, so that we can make the right decisions, so that we can then start to flow with life.
Beautiful. So with someone who's on the screen, all throughout their day, maybe they're, get on the social media, there's a lot of that Veta. I think for me too, it's a lot of screen time in a day. What balances that?
Really having, well, two things: having pauses from that, like
Mhm.
conscious pauses,
Yeah.
and also so really taking time away from the screen. So the big thing I tell clients all the time is, how are you eating lunch? Are you eating
Okay.
lunch at your computer? Are you sitting there
Mm.
and kind of like eating the food while you're doing five other things?
Mhm.
So that's, so my big, it's just such a simple ask, and it's an ask that really honors you as a being,
Mhm.
because what it says is, when you put in, can you take your lunch, can you go sit down somewhere, even if it's for 20 minutes, and
Mhm.
just shut everything else down, tune everything else out, and focus on this beautiful prana, which is life
Yeah.
force energy that you're taking in through your food. So making that your sacred time. So creating ritual spaces or
Mhm.
moments, even not even spaces, call them moments of rituals, moment rituals in your day to amplify your well-being. So really shutting the rest of the world out. And then the second piece is really having a wind down ritual at night, which
Mm.
again I've talked about in the handout, but
Yeah.
at minimum, turning off all screens and devices half an hour before you go to bed.
Mhm.
And you want to be in bed by 10 p.m. Because if you're in bed at 10 p.m., you make it right into the end of kapha time, and kapha supports sleep, the kapha
Mhm.
dosha, if you look at the
Mhm.
6 to 10 a.m., 6 to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And you get to bed before 10 p.m. because you want to get to bed before your second wind kicks on. And if
Mhm.
you're somebody who stays up after 10 p.m., you know that that is when you want to organize all the closets in your house. You want
Mhm.
to write every email that's pending, and you want to do all of this brain work, because that is when pitta dosha kicks back on.
Mm.
And pitta wants pitta is the doer. It wants to make stuff happen all the time.
Mhm. Mhm. This was like me
But
last night. I had so much I wanted to get done last night, and it was like 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, I made the conscious choice to say, nope. Like, you have to like say, nope, this isn't the time to start projects.
yes, yes,
you know?
exactly. Yes. And I,
Mhm.
I have the same tendency, and I have
Mhm.
lived this out. I remember when my son was much younger, when he was a toddler, I
Yeah.
would stay up really late at night working on newspaper article deadlines. And I
Mm.
thought, oh, this is great. I can finish this up and I'll be up tomorrow. I'll, have my coffee, and then I'll go again and chase after my
Mhm.
toddler. And it quickly caught up with me, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you're drawing into this, that if your health is a bank account, you're drawing like into a deficit basically over time, and it
Yeah.
happens fast, and you start to feel kind of out of whack. And so it wasn't
Mhm.
until I understood these patterns that I went, oh my god. So I started literally on my phone setting a timer for 9 p.m. and then 9:30 p.m. And then at 9:30 p.m., I know every single day I've got to put my devices away,
Yeah.
and I have to get everything out of the bedroom, and I need to light my candle and start winding down,
I
right?
love that. I love that. I think it's so important because to like you mentioned the structure and the scheduling for so many years. Actually, it was kind of ironic because it was when I sort of got more. I was almost too structured to a very masculine, rigidness that I didn't really understand. Like this is what I love about this process because it's more nurturing than it is like discipline, structure, do this. It's like this way of
Yes.
nurturing your being. And I felt like when I went into more of that flow state, I almost went like too airy,
Yeah.
like I would stay up till 3 in the morning because it was just flowing through me or whatever. But that was also very imbalancing as well. So I really love this sort of, it's like a container of nurturing to support all of the things.
Yes, and it's so interesting too when you say that, because of the airiness and the creativity, because really that time, like the magical time for that, where really we are connected closer to, I guess, the veils of consciousness, is really vata time. So if you're somebody who sometimes, they this is kind of the stereotype of anything artistic, that you stay up all night and you do all of the stuff. But really, if you went to bed at, around 10, and then you had these ideas, you're going to sleep on those ideas. The pitta dosha is going to help you transform them into something even more vibrant and
Mhm,
real. And
mhm,
if you wake up during vata time, so if you woke up at like even 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and started writing or doing whatever you were doing, creating,
Mm-hmm.
that is when that kind of download will come right out of you, you
Mm.
know? And so it's just, again, and then it becomes this process of harnessing the energy of the doshas to support what it is that you're trying to bring out, right? So, another kind of really simple, concrete example I tell clients a lot is, when should your largest meal of the day be? It
Mm-hmm.
should be at a time when your metabolism is actually supported, where your digestive fire is supported. And that ideal time is pitta time, but midday pitta time, not
Mm-hmm.
not at nighttime, because during the day the sun is high, the sun's energy is hot, and
Mm-hmm.
after eating a lunch, Ayurveda says, well, go have a little walk. So you again start to digest the food a little more easily, but you are digesting that food way better, heavier food at lunchtime than in the evening, because in the evening, your digestive fire is not supported as much. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you look at our evening meal, most people eat the evening meal again during kapha time. And that's that time where you start to feel kind of more sluggish and heavy. So you
Mm-hmm.
actually want to eat during pitta time, because pitta supports digestion. It's your glands, your digestive juices are actually working and they're activated then. And at
Mm-hmm.
nighttime, the 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. time, that pitta time, at night, your body is literally digesting the food from much earlier in the day, but it's already, that food has been transformed, and now it's sending nutrition it's helping nutrition get to the different organ systems in the body, and specifically the endocrine system. So if you've eaten a good meal earlier in the day, you've had a purposeful day, you've started to wind down, you're in bed, you're getting ready for bed, you're primed for like deep sleep at 10 p.m., your body will then start to send the right signals to creating the right hormones that then support you
Mm-hmm.
and get you ready for the next day, right? So
Yeah.
your sleep will be better, your skin will look better,
Yeah.
and these things will happen over time, right? It's kind of like, that is what you said. What I loved what you said earlier is like, oh, it's these small little shifts. And that
Mm-hmm.
is exactly it. You don't want to do anything drastic because it'll shock your system. But if you can
Mm-hmm.
make that one little switch, like instead of just going straight for your coffee, start drinking your lemon water, then have your
Mm-hmm.
coffee maybe around 9:30 in the morning. You don't actually need
Mm-hmm.
it at 6 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you can start to see how you feel after you make a shift.
Love this. So what about a lot of my clients are in Alberta and they're just a really strong meat and potato culture. And so how
Mhm.
does that like evening heavier meal, like what would be an ideal dinner to have with a family and to be more supportive in the
To
evenings?
su to support yourself and really your family in general, what I typically do is, you can still have meat, but
Mm-hmm.
make the meat of almost like 20% of your meal, right? And
Mm-hmm.
have more vegetables around it and the grains and the other piece. So that's one piece. So make the meat more like a tasting portion, if you will. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not the only thing that is nourishing you, because it's going to work in harmony with the vegetables and with the grains to support your overall nutrition. And
Mm-hmm.
what the other thing that matters is how you eat. So, are
Mm-hmm.
you actually slowing down? Are you giving thanks for this food coming into your body? Are
Mm-hmm.
you
Or are you just
eating
stuffing your emotions from the day?
exactly,
Right?
exactly,
That's
exactly?
a
Yeah,
really good point. Yeah.
yeah. So, how are you eating? And then, how much are you eating? So,
Mhm.
this is another thing that I talk about a lot. But in terms of the amount of food, you want about a third of your food to be solid food in your system, in your stomach, a third to be watery. So whether it's like a soup or something that's stewy. So I always tell people with meat, try to do more stews and slow cooked things because your body will digest them better and be able to
Mhm.
take more nutrition from that. It's almost like you're pre-digesting the food a little bit
Mhm.
when you cook it that way versus like a piece of steak, for
Yeah.
example. And the last thing is you want a third of your stomach to be empty.
Mhm.
Why? You don't want to eat until you're overstuffed ever. And the reason is when your stomach has some room, your digestive juices can work better and your food can be digested more easily and faster. And you will get more nutrition from the food that you're eating and you will not feel constipated and slow and stagnant over time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Amazing. Okay, anything and keep moving through our the charts here then.
Yeah. So, other things that you want to remember in terms of the day, like Pitta time is that kind of fiery time. It's also the time when your mind is super active and it's very sharp. So it's a great time to schedule calls, meetings, any important tasks that actually require you to be analytical, to take information and communicate it well out into the world, right? So anything that you're trying that requires understanding. Kapha time is really good for exercise because kapha supports the joints and stability in the body.
Mm.
And mornings are great for exercise in general because
Mhm.
you stabilize your blood sugar levels
Mhm.
and you start to again signal to the body that, all right, well, I've burnt all of the sugar out from yesterday and now I'm ready to take in more food and more nutrition in so I can now sustain a new day. So this
Mhm.
is why it is so much easier to create the habit of, for example, going to the gym early in the morning
Mhm.
versus if you try to do it later on in the day, chances are it just won't happen as easily.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the morning workouts for me are what I call my non-negotiable because it's like for me it's also I often think of it as like it's your energy clearing. It's not just
Yes.
the
Yes.
exercise, it's like the emotional, the stagnancy, the ick, whatever it might be, and just for your mental health, for your focus that day, to be able to show up with confidence. You know, it's the I always think of it as like that. It's that release of whatever might be bothering for the amount of negative thoughts that people carry in a day and the burdens that people are carrying. I just feel like exercise is such an antidote to that, and
It really
I've learned the hard way many times. Like you can't avoid it. The more you either go through the pain of going through your workout or the pain of suffering.
yes,
And
yes, 100%.
I'd rather much rather suffer in the yoga room for an hour of just like, oh my gosh, why am I here? And then it's like amazing afterwards. And the more you do it, the more you start to really almost like can't live without it.
100%, 100%. And and to that point, like the kapha dosha can support intensity a little bit, right?
Mhm.
So that like
Mhm.
that energy of exercise is a really good thing to use at this time. And so, and of course, if you're someone who can't make the morning happen, then think about
Mhm.
getting something in right around 6 p.m. or so at night
Mhm.
ideally between or even 5 to 6, 5 to 7 in that range of time because then you'll still have enough time to kind of wind down before you go to sleep. So
Okay,
that's a
beautiful.
little piece on exercise. In terms of vata,
Mhm.
you want to avoid too much sensory stimulation during vata time because vata is already kind of that sensitive, airy nature in us. It is the part of us that does get hyperstimulated. And
Mhm.
frankly, we all have our vata in kind of overdrive right now because of the world we live in, because we have these um, phones that basically, because we're online 24/7, we have that
Yes.
capacity because we live in a world where you can do anything you want whenever you want. If I want
Mhm.
to wake up at 3 in the morning and I want to buy something on Amazon, I can.
Yeah. You
Right?
can.
Right? I can.
Mhm.
It's possible. But does
Mhm.
that mean it's good for me?
Mhm.
Probably not, right? So that's kind of, those are the cues that we get over and over again from Ayurveda. It's kind of like, um, there's another concept, and I'll throw it out because it's very simple, but, and I say this because in the Western world, we make things so complicated and we want all of these fixes all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We want
Mm-hmm.
everybody to tell us what to do because we just want everything to work out and we want it to be as easy and as dumbed down as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes say that because we're almost not willing to put in the work, and we
Mm-hmm.
almost sometimes we want something to be a little we want we sort of gravitate towards these theories that can be sometimes almost too complicated
Mm-hmm.
because we want to kind of not take responsibility for how we live
Mm-hmm.
our life.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of,
That's a
I know
really
it's
beautiful,
maybe,
honest thing. Yeah, it's funny. I think about myself, I always say there's my Christine 1.0 and my Christine 2.0. And it's like that I dance between the two worlds. But my previous self would like to just make it that coffee, we could fast on coffee all day and live off of beer all afternoon. And that would be a healthy, happy life. But that's just
yeah,
not how it works.
yeah, yeah,
There's
exactly.
meal preparation, but the beautiful thing, it seems daunting at first, but it's funny, like I'm sure you find this as well. Like once you do it, it's like this little hump you have to get over to
Yes.
even as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, the Netflix, beautiful. And I've even started going back to my evening meditation. It's life changing. And when you do it, it's almost like, how did I live without doing this before? When I take the time to meal prep, it's like, it just feels so easy and you want the world to do it. But I've been there 1,000 times too, where it doesn't happen or whatever. That's why I
Yeah.
love accountability and things. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, um, to but that's why I think this teaching is so powerful, because even as I'm reading this, I'm already thinking like, oh yeah, I want to implement that. And even like you said, the lighting the candle in the evening, turning off electronics, just finding
Yes.
these intentional ways to and finding the, that's what I'd also love to hear. But once we'll get through this more of this sheet here, but I'm really curious afterwards to share like the benefits, like what people can really experience by implementing this, because I already have some shares of my own, but I'd love to hear your own experience and that with all of this. But why don't we finish with some of the final notes on the things from this sheet here.
Yeah. So other things, and we can't go into super detail about this, but the thing that I want to tell you as well is that we exist as well as a balance of these three doshas. So they're
Mhm.
in us and they exist in different ratios. So some people will be more naturally kapha, some people will be more naturally pitta, and some people will
Mhm.
be more naturally vata. And once you start to kind of understand the doshas a little bit more, you'll go, oh, this is who I am. This is why I act this way. This is why I react this way to this situation, even versus other people in my close circle, whether it's family or friends, et cetera, right? For example, if you're
Mhm.
someone who has a lot of vata dosha in you, you will
Mhm.
generally tend to have sensitive digestion.
Mhm.
It just is the way it is. So because you have kind of a more sensitive nature, everything in your body is a little more, it's kind of like you're a sports car, not a truck.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? You need a
So
little more
yeah,
fine tuning.
and I have a
And
question. Oh, sorry, keep
mhm.
going.
And in that note, so when you look about here, I've got, under the what to do, eat warm, cooked, moist meals, because
Mhm.
vata tends to be a little more dry and a little more erratic. So you want to
Mhm.
support that by doing the opposite. So again, think about how you feel when it's cold and there's a wind blowing. Alberta is very much like that, and it's dry. So the weather in Alberta can be quite vata provoking. So you want to do the opposite. You want your food to be warm. You want to make sure you're wearing warm clothing. You want to make sure
Mhm.
that you are putting oil on your body, because that will again combat the dryness inherent in
Mhm.
vata. And as we age, we tend to become more vata as well. So we want to make sure we have good oils in our food, whether it's coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil,
Mm-hmm.
sesame oil, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So those are again ways of using the doshas to balance life out in a
Oof, I
way.
love that. I love that because my question was, so I'm the pitta. I've done the charts
Mm-hmm.
before and the surveys or whatever. And as I'm looking at it, where it says avoid, would you say that the dosha? So being a pitta, would you say I'm more prone to the things that I should be avoiding? Because I would, as I'm reading that, I'm like, yep, I used to live off of coffee, alcohol, and
Yes.
binge watch a lot of Netflix, and I was a workaholic.
Yes, 100%, because pitta has that, yeah, 100%, because pitta has that tendency also
Hmm.
towards kind of addictive behaviors,
Hmm.
right? Quote
Yes.
unquote, right? And I know that's a
Hmm.
loaded word in our culture, but
Hmm.
there is a what pitta does is it kind of overrides the rest of you to just get stuff done.
Yes.
And when you're in that mode, your cravings, you will crave salty, sour, and
Mhm,
pungent things.
mhm,
And that's the sourness is the alcohol, the beer,
mhm,
the salt, the pungency is in the coffee, right? It's that
mhm,
the heat.
mhm.
And so when you're in a state of imbalance with the doshas, because you
Yeah.
already have an excess of something in you, you actually want more of what you don't need. So
Mm.
when
That's a
so
really
to come
important concept. I think a lot of people can relate to that. How's the chat going? How's the live audience? Is everybody enjoying? Give a little clap or round of applause for this information if you're enjoying it, because I'm loving this. Yeah, see the little
Oh,
hands? See
awesome.
the hands?
Oh, I love it.
Hmm.
Great. Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Because yeah, and that's the thing is so when we can lean into the framework of Ayurveda, um, what it does is it gives us this kind of like zoomed out perspective, right? So
Mhm,
if you can kind of zoom out just a little bit from your life and start to look at your tendencies, you
mhm.
can start to understand, oh, I do this because of this. And that is
Yes.
the first step towards transformation. I mean,
Amen.
this whole life journey is about, trying to figure out whether, the 1.0 version works or is
Yeah.
there more,
There
right?
is so much more
And
on the 2.0
yeah,
side when you really, this is exactly the process I've gone through where I removed all these things and I was like, wow, like I can't believe how much more balanced, focused, present, peaceful I am as a human.
totally,
I didn't know
totally.
really what
And
that felt like.
no, no, exactly.
Mm,
And I can say that too. I can say the things, it's so funny, and I'll just share this about me. But,
mhm.
I didn't study prenatal yoga until I was pregnant because
Yeah.
for me, it has always been really important to actually experience and embody something before I go out there and share it with the world.
Mhm,
And in Ayurveda, I can tell you 100% that all of these things that I've put on here, I've done all of the avoid.
mhm.
I've
Columns.
leaned into, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that doesn't work. And I'm a Libra. That's my or my
Mhm.
astrological sign, and it's funny because everyone says, "Oh, Libras are all about balance," but you know what? We're not. We're trying to find balance, and to find balance, sometimes you ricochet. You go from one extreme to another, and
Yes.
it's kind of like that
Yes.
pendulum swing, and then you get closer and closer towards that point of balance, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like so I just want you all to know that everything that I'm talking about, it's like I've lived it. Like when
Yeah.
I've pushed, I have those tendencies too. I have those pitta tendencies, but now that I know that about myself, it's like nope,
Yes.
I'm not going to stay up until 2 a.m. working on that project
Yes.
because it just doesn't work for me. And we learn these things as we get older, right? I'm
Absolutely.
in
And
my
then it
40s
becomes
now and I feel so
yes.
much more just in more coherence with who I am now.
Yeah,
But
beautiful.
it's taken all this time to get here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. So, is there anything, any last points you want to share about the sheet here?
No, no, I
Okay.
can't believe we talked about that for
I
almost
know it's such
45
a
minutes.
beautiful
It's crazy.
information. It's such a beautiful information. And so I guess my sort of final question is really about what can people experience when they implement some of these things. And like we said, we have a great sheet. We'll be sending everybody. I'll post the link here in a minute for everybody to download the gift for everybody, that you can actually breaks it down, like the habits and rituals to go through the whole
Yes.
day. But what can people, because I always think like, you always have to have an intention of what that desired outcome is to really maintain this behaviors and structure and ritual in your life, because otherwise it's like it becomes another should, right? So it's like,
Yes.
what is some of the things that you've experienced in your own life? Let's come back to you. And wait, how do I get out of there? There we go. How do
So
you feel like it's impacted your own life? I mean, you've gone through some of your own really incredible health journey, especially even in this last year. But how has these principles really impacted you and seen for some of the benefits? Like, what can people expect to experience by implementing some of these things?
um, so oh, such a big question,
It is a
and
big question.
wish we had lots more time to
I
talk
know.
about it. But in a short answer, the big thing I would say is what Ayurveda has offered me is really a deeper understanding of who I am.
Mhm.
And by that, I mean not just my ego self, not just this personality, but
Mhm.
really understanding all of the different facets that make me up. And it has allowed me to celebrate myself and to accept myself fully.
Mm.
And that is such a profound gift when you think about it. This self acceptance, this leaning into the ocean of who we are, you
Mhm.
know, all of the aspects, the good, the bad, and not even putting labels on any of it. And
Mhm.
so I feel like who I am now is just so much more honest and so much more real. And I, I think people connect to that because I'm
Absolutely.
not trying to be who I'm not because I understand who I am now. And so I think that is the biggest gift. And in that sense, it's also the connection between us and the cosmos. So
Mhm.
it's like we are spiritual beings. We're
Mhm.
spiritual beings living in this physical world,
Mhm.
and so finding that connection, experiencing it every day, and in so many ways, big and small. And, you talked a little bit about my health journey, and there's a lot to talk about that. And you can find a lot. I shared a lot about that on my social media as I was going through a cancer journey. But the piece that Ayurveda offered me was this structure and framework to lean into. I mean, I was doing things like giving myself an oil massage at the hospital. And
Mhm.
I did that like every day, no matter how weak or unable I was at the time as I was going through chemotherapy and stuff. And I also leaned into just the simple practice of yoga, which, by the way, is prescribed in Ayurveda as a
Mhm.
way of bringing balance into your being. And so it was these practices that gave me just the strength and the resilience
Mhm.
to kind of rebuild myself, and I'm in such a different place now health wise than I was a year ago. And I
Yeah.
really attribute it to Ayurveda and these wisdom practices,
Yeah, I
in so
love
many
that.
ways.
I love that. And I
Yeah.
think it's like you said, it's I don't know, I find with health practices, it's not to, even in the word balance or whatever, it's like it's not to be this like perfect healthy human. It's actually like the resiliency word is a really powerful word, because I think that's, yeah, you said two really powerful things. The resiliency, because it's tools to move through some of those difficult times that we all
Yes.
face. Like it's like,
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's perceived that there's this this everything's okay version of ourselves, but the everything okay version of ourselves is what you mentioned early, which is that integration and that acceptance of all the parts of ourselves,
Yes.
rather than
Yes.
trying to like, a lot of people try to get rid of this part or not be like that anymore and change. And it's really about this, like the more deepening of that whole person acceptance, which I feel like that's what you're speaking to with Ayurveda, is like it's these tools to kind of come into your own being.
Yes, because what you understand when you study the doshas, for example, more is that we all have these tendencies, and
Mhm.
a tendency necessarily isn't a bad thing. A
Yeah.
quality, let's just call them qualities. A quality isn't a bad thing. It's just when what's the balance of that? Is it excessive or is it
Hmm.
not? Right. So
Yeah.
and then you start to see yourself as this whole being with nothing bad or nothing good. It just,
Hmm.
you are just who you are. And
Hmm.
then you can start to make these choices, right? And you can go,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's my tendency. And this is the quality that's pushing me. So now I need to rein that in. And I rein that in through conscious choice.
Yes.
I am choosing that the tendency is no longer driving me, but
Yes.
there is another part of myself that has the capacity to
Hmm.
accept and hold space and go, all right, that craving for sugar, and that craving for, like, oh, I just want to eat whatever that is actually, I just need I just need a warm bath with some rose essential oils and lavender so I can feel how much I love myself right now,
Hmm.
instead of whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
That pulling outward. So, yeah, so that's yeah.
I like that. It feels like you're, yeah, more in the director's mode versus the, yeah, I think so many people are just victim to their cravings and circumstances and binge watching and overwhelm and
Yeah,
just driving themselves
yeah,
into the ground, when it's sort of like coming back to like, oh wait, when I implement these things, I don't have to feel so
yes,
burnt out. I don't have to, I can function more productively by taking that time to exercise in the morning. Wow, I got so much more accomplished in those 2 3 hour window than I did in an entire day before. That's what I've always
exactly.
found too. I used to think like,
Yes.
no, I have so much to do, I don't have time for this, is like one of my all-time debunked excuses, because it's the opposite. When you make the time for these self-care and putting these systems in place, it's like everything else starts to flourish too.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, do we have any? I'm just checking any audience questions. Last chance for questions. I'm going to shoot up this form for everybody so that you can receive your gift. So you can just click the link where it says click here to receive your gift. That's from Insia. We will be emailing out all of her information so you can follow her on social media. She's had an incredible journey this past year with so much wisdom and inspiration, I think, for everybody. And this the that she also has a course that you can take with Ayurveda. I'm like Ayurveda. It's a I've looked at it, looks amazing. So lots of things and wisdom that you can take on, and I'm sure this will not be the last time you hear from Insia. I will be um, plugging her into the Inner Glow community in other ways, I'm sure. But yeah, take a look at that gift, and if there's anything else you want to ask Insia, I'm sure she's more than happy if you reach out through her
Totally.
Instagram or
Yeah.
yeah, check out her website and all that good stuff. But I'm so curious too, Insia, what would you say on a final note that you want to leave as a message to our viewers on how they can better their health, or like that the life's wisdom of maintaining that inner glow?
Great question. I would say, honestly, the thing that I absolutely live by and I love is waking up every single day with that knowing that it is a new day and a new chance to take the reins again on your life,
Mm,
on your health.
mm.
Yeah. So you have that choice and you always have that capacity. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Today is a new chance to show up
Mm.
again. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. It's a perspective. I think so many people yeah, give up on themselves almost because they
Mm.
try all the things and they feel like failures rather than that
Yes.
we're all failures in some regard, if you want to perceive it as that, and
Yeah.
I've worked with some of the most healthy people, the most successful people, and I realize like they're all on the same train too. They just do exactly what you just said. They wake up the next day and they try again versus go into
Yeah.
that defeat,
Yeah.
you
That's
know.
all.
So
So simple, right?
oh, yes, sweet music to my ears. Thank you so much for being on our show. Everybody, if you enjoyed the chat, my live audience members, give another little round of applause with the buttons at the bottom. I love the little buttons and the celebration links. Thank you so much, Insiya. It's been such a pleasure to just capture this 1 hour with you. It's been so special, and I can't wait to have you share more. I think there's so much more things to come.
Thank you so much for having me. And it was a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Yeah, and I look forward to our next run-in, which is probably like tomorrow.
Yeah, probably. Just don't tell me where you're going because I know I'll figure it
Like,
out.
no joke. I'm just gonna finish on the note. I no joke was scootering through Bali and literally looked over to my left and Insia was on a scooter right next to me in Bali, Indonesia, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing here?" So
Yeah.
it is a small world. It's a beautiful world, and stay connected to the magic, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Insia. I'll stay on and have a chat with you after we end the show. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye.